Got my Jordy LaForge on, bro.
You did hear when I said I started recording, right?
Too late, man. It's already here.
Well, this
is professional outfit.
This is very cyberpunk themey as the patch drops. That only fixes 1,000 of the
5,000 bugs. Yeah. Creates 500 more. So
this is the second time we've all got together and kind of recorded our Wednesday powwows with PubChat. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you find this a good listen. Hope you got this on while you're working away at other things, and we'll just banter in the background and let you know what our thoughts are on the current situation of anything. We've been known to side tangent quite heavily, so we'll see where we end up. It's an adventure, and nobody knows the destination like a good road trip with 3 friends. So what's been going on, guys? What's the news and adventures, the games? Any quick game reviews or any quick game thoughts?
I'll jump in. Hey, so over the week I picked up Cryo from Z-Man Games. It's a cool little worker placement where you get to place these little drones. So it's really cool little components, but it has a neat mechanism that you're building your platform that your drones launch from. So not only do you get the workers to place on the board, but when you recall your workers, they come back to your platform and you actually get to customize these little spaces. So as you bring them back to reset, you get to trigger little spaces and stuff as well. So it's a neat little worker placement. We played that was cool. Getting ready for an Age of Sigmar event on Sunday. One of our local shops is doing a tourney. So me and another buddy that I've been playing against a lot are showing up, gonna play some AOS. And outside of that, just looking forward to, there's a board game called Hadrian's Wall that's supposed to be coming out this week that I've got to have my eye on.
But that's
so
the Shem Phillips style, right? Is it in that trilogy? Is it part of it?
I think it's part of the Raiders of Scythia, that line. It's that art style and everything. Yeah. I was not really a big fan of the Raiders of the North Sea and that trilogy, but I love the whole West Kingdoms trilogy. Every one of those games has been a ton of fun. And that trilogy has kind of converted me a little bit into the Shem Phillips fanboydom, to where I will check the games out. I enjoyed Raiders. I know Raiders is really just a reskinning of Raiders. Or sorry, Raiders of Scythia is a reskinning of Raiders of the North Sea. I gotta say the full title, otherwise it's the same beginning.
Raiders of skinning. Raiders.
Yeah. But it's they take North Sea and they put all the best parts of the expansion into kind of a complete version. And I also just really dig the art style of Scythia. And you get to get eagles and stuff like that. It's just cool.
I heard the same thing. I heard that the Western trilogy, each individual game was really good and blew the North Sea stuff out of the water. But I hear that the original Raiders of the North Sea, with all of the expansions, is still good by itself. But just the other games didn't flush that world out. As well.
Absolutely.
As think, right.
And that's kind of what they tried to do with the Raiders of Scythia game. It's pretty much, it's almost like a reskinning of North Sea with what they considered the best parts of all the expansions, pretty much in the one box you could purchase. So if you wanted to see maybe what the best vision of the North Sea could be, then that's maybe what Raiders of Scythia is supposed to fill up. It's a cool game. It's fun. So yeah, so it's just kind of what's been on my radar and what I've played recently and what I got coming up.
For me, in the board gaming world, I've been playing Aquatica a lot. And if you haven't checked that one out, this is strictly base. This is the Arcane Wonders version, Dice Tower Essential line version of it. Because I know the rules kind of were cleaned up or changed in this one a little bit, but I love it. Playing it very heavy, 2 players, me and my wife, and it's this has got some legs to where I might have to pick up the Cold Water expansion. This is just coincidence, but this is sitting here too. I'm playing This is a fun game.
Dude, that's been popping up. For some reason, I have never heard of this game until like watching like my Twitter feed, and then like
Really?
all these like board game people have been like, because it's got like nominated or got like an award or something. It's been popping up everywhere, and somehow that game completely flew under my radar. So what is? Tell me about this game. Sell me on the artichokes.
Yeah, man. So it's called Abandon All Artichokes, and this is it's weird. It's called or I guess the mechanic is a deck deconstruction game. So you start off. I mean, it always comes with this cool little sticker, okie dokie, artichoke sticker. But inside the game itself, everybody starts off with a hand of these artichokes. So it's like typical. You have your deck, you draft up, and obviously, hey, I've got all artichokes. And if you ever draw up and you don't have any artichokes, you win the game. So you're trying to get rid of the artichokes in your deck. And and there's like a little line of different vegetables that you when you draft them up, they do different things. Right? There's peas in a pod.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Chilling. But yeah, so they all do different things, and it's like if you meet these requirements, you can compost, which is like get rid of out into the middle, like out of the game, not like into your discard pile. You can compost these artichokes, so you're trying to just push all of them out. It's a very, very quick game once everybody's firing on all cylinders. But from a family style level, we have been enjoying it. So that's kind of that. Been really into from the adults version. We have Aquatica going on and Abandon All Artichokes for all other needs. And it's just hitting, man. It's really, really cool. My kids are still young enough that they can't really, read all the text on the card without some help, but they could start to remember what what the vegetable lets them do, right? So as long as they can remember those and it's got like the pictures with a little help, they can get through. So I mean that's kind of where we land on the gaming front. Hollis, any kind of things. So those are two heavy recommendations from me. Not so much. I got no thumbs downs right now.
I was gonna say I like the artichoke game, if for no other reason, but because like it sounds like an amazing like game to start the fundamentals of like deeper board games, right? So which is again, I like your unique perspective as someone with children, because like you get to like have these games that like Corey just said, I had never heard of that game, and that actually sounds amazing. That's so dope.
Well, I mean, I've preached this one before. I don't know if it's on the show or on just with you guys in general. But if you haven't picked up the original Zombie Kids Evolution, I mean, this is like a $20-something game that's like a legacy game. And we play this, my kids are 5, and the excitement to open an envelope and see what's going to be in there to change the game. And it's really a great way to get your kids or younger kids into board gaming, because it's that exact style that kids learn, right? Like I'm going to play the same game for 5 times, and then there could be a change to the rules. So the rules get a little harder. Then, I'm playing that next game, 5 more times until the next change. And I mean, and 5 is relative, because if you get certain achievements, you get little trophies and stuff, and it helps to push the game along. But I mean, the game is dirt cheap for a legacy perspective and families, and it's how does it go like this? It's that sweet it's that sweet spot, right? And we still love it. So I Hollis, you were talking about you were banging off some legacy gaming action, and I mean, that's a quick and dirty one that I'd rank very highly for families.
Unfortunately, my choices, Jameson, have been a bit more selfish. They've not been as cooperative or as family oriented. They've been very like competitive and angry. Oh, yeah. Makes you angry.
You're still getting through Seafall, right?
Man, you're right. That's pretty much all been abandoned at this point. The things that's been on the radar lately is this past weekend I went on a small little vacation and we got to check out a game called Vindication. It's like a fantasy board game. It's like worker placement, sort of kind of like that, or more like a resource management. And there's like actions you can take on your turn. And the premise is that you are basically a scumbag that's been like cast off his ship because you've just been a scumbag your entire life, and you land on this like sort of like fantasy island where there's magic and intrigue and monsters, and through your influence you can discover different things about the world and find new companions and kill those monsters, and then you'll gain I'm just going to say it's renown, which are effectively like victory points in the game, and ultimately sort of redeem yourself for how you used to be and become a much better person. It's really interesting. The art of the game is beautiful. It's really I think that it's really like tactical, very strategic. I'm not very good because I came in dead last in my playthrough. But I mean, I love learning about new games, and that it was just a very cool experience. I jumped back into Netrunner. I know that I may have mentioned this before. I haven't really had a chance to play a heck of a lot of it. It's been mostly just a couple of games, like maybe I think actually only 2 games on jiteki.net. For those of you who don't know, Netrunner is this like Cyberpunk Android game. You might see other videos that we've done in the past about this game.
Maybe you heard of them.
Yeah,
maybe the name of the channel.
Yeah, maybe the name of the channel is because of Netrunner. But yeah, no, it's been interesting seeing coming back into Netrunner and seeing how the game has changed. And the last little bit, I'm only about I think 4 hours, maybe I'm at 6 hours, but I'm 4 hours in at least of Disco Elysium Final Cut. And let me tell you something. This is a video game that I'm playing on PC. I know that the Final Cut came out on Switch and other consoles.
And Stadia.
And Stadia. This game, okay, it is one of those games where you are encouraged to just play how you want. Don't worry about failure. Failure is a part of the game. Your character has these skills, but those skills are sort of like manifestation of your brain, of like who you are as a person. And when you do skill checks, whether they're passive or active in the game, those parts of your psyche, like let's say your savoir-faire, your logic, your suggestion skill, or maybe your esprit de corps, which is how good of your police officer spirit. All those things sort of like speak in your brain. The great thing about Final Cut is that, so before Final Cut, it was all just a lot of reading. They've added dialogue to every single one of these skills. So now, when you're listening and seeing your passive skill checks, you'll hear different voices for these skills, and they're more like characters. So it's like you have all these characters inside you that make you as a person, and they're constantly in battle and flux with each other, trying to argue on what's the right play when you're trying to convince someone to do you a favor, or how do you respond to someone questioning your manliness, right? It's an interesting like concept, and it's only enhanced even further because of the voice acting. I highly recommend it. Beautiful game, neat art style, very, in my opinion, original. Great writing. I all those things. So there it is. Disco Elysium, Netrunner.
I can't wait to get back into that. Like, I've played through most of it as the text version, and then when I heard of Final Cut, like, I wanted just to wait, because I will say, like, the worst thing you can do playing Disco Elysium is take a break in the middle of playing that game, because the story is so deep and involved that if you take like a multi-week break, it's hard to get back into it. So when I heard Final Cut was coming out, I'm just gonna wait. So I'm in the middle of playing Outriders right now. Which has been a lot of fun, and that's like the top game like on my list as soon as I get like a moment where I could sit down for like a long period of time and just power through it.
So this is great. This kind of sits into one of our first talking points here, but small side tangent that we'd like to come back to in another episode. Hollis, once you soak up enough experience in this Netrunner third generation, we got to come back and might have to revisit this and dedicate a full session to it. And Corey and I just grill you on this.
Is everything uploaded in Jinteki? Like, is all the new stuff out, or is it like partially up, or?
It is now. They had a new rotation that was going to occur, that occurred on the 9th of this month, so it'll be the 9th of April for, I don't know, depending on when you listen to this. And I know that the new set that they came out with, as well as the new core set, that got released before that rotation. So there was a small frustrating period where, you know, the cards were officially out, but the rotation hadn't happened. And because, you know, a lot of people are pretty much pushed and forced to play digitally, the single most used site for deck building didn't really have the new format easily available yet to make decks in. So it was a little bit cumbersome, but it's ready now. It's there now.
Gotcha.
So what I wanted to talk to you guys about here is, you know, we touched on two, you know, in our clique, two pretty big games there. Outriders, Disco Elysium, but unfortunately both those versions or both these games weren't without their issues at launch. I don't know so much about Disco Elysium, how those issues carried across to other versions. I don't know if they had to patch it right away, but I know that where I was keeping up on the Stadia forums, there was a couple small bugs that were very detrimental to the progression of the game. And obviously, right now, go on any Outriders forum, and it is just a meme central about the inventory wipe stuff that's happening. Not let alone the crossplay issues and some of the other huge bugs they'd had with the servers crashing and things like that. So those are just two games here we've had, right? And I mean, Corey and I were both pretty pumped for Outriders because of the issues. Like I say, I play Stadia. He does not. We were very pumped to do like a cross-platform play. Still waiting for this to happen. But so Outriders, huge game. Avengers came with big hypes, and then, you know, issues out the gate. Cyberpunk, big hype, issues out the gate, right?
Still issues at the gate.
Still issues way past the gate in second,
yeah.
After one lap, right?
Yeah.
So are, you know, from your perspective, guys, with all of these issues coming in games, are you guys still pre-ordering? Like, is it worth the pre-order? Like, I look at what pre-ordering is doing now, things, and they're like, we'll give you a skin and you get some decals and maybe a special weapon or something like that. Or maybe you don't even get anything at all. Like, you're just like, I'm just going to pre-order it, right? But they're not really enticing you to pre-order. Usually these bundles cost more, to pre-order because they've put more content into it. It's not like it's, hey, believe in us, and you're going to get you can get the game for $40 instead of $50 if you pre-order it. So at least we've got some of that pre-order revenue. Like, so there's two versions that we can branch off to in this conversation: pre-ordering for video games, or pre-ordering like Kickstarters, right? Like blindly, right? Not like a company that uses Kickstarter one after another, and then that's their main distribution channel, right? Like a brand new company comes up, the game looks awesome. Are you pre-ordering it into Kickstarter? I mean, because it's not like the way that Kickstarter is. It's basically a pre-order system. Everybody expects to get what they have pledged, right? Like, it's lost the whole integrity of the platform, where it's like, help me fund this thing. If it doesn't happen, I'm sorry, but thanks for believing in me. Now it's like, this is just one giant, like, give me money now and I can go make this, and then you get it a year later. So what are your guys' thoughts on pre-ordering in these systems?
So I'll jump in on the board game side. To kind of piggyback a little bit off your whole thing of like how some companies use it. I think I've heard some higher up at a company that will not be like called out referred to pretty much Kickstarter as like a massive interest-free loan. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, of course, why would I stop Kickstarting? I can just continuously get an interest-free loan from everybody to put this game out and then make my money and stuff back on it. So So that's the one thing. As far as like going through and deciding to do Kickstarters, I will always typically look at like what extra value or incentive do I get for like backing it early as opposed to just waiting for retail. So if they usually offer like some like really cool exclusive that's actually worthwhile, or if they will, or maybe the value, like you get like a really good like bundle breakdown, or like, you know, you save a lot of money on like getting the main game and all the expansions and everything, as opposed to if I just waited for it to come to retail and I bought it normally. That's a good reason to maybe back it. Something that a lot of people have been doing now, and it's actually incentivized me or had me go through and back games, is they'll put like a TTS mod up. So they'll launch a Kickstarter and be like, hey, you can try the game for free on like Tabletop Simulator, Board Game Arena, Tabletopia, whatever. Or here's a print and play. Try the game out for yourself. If you like it, back the project. You don't have to take a risk on it because you can try the game ahead of time and know if you like it. And that's actually got me to back games. John's company is a Kickstarter's going on right now. I never would have backed that game if I didn't get a chance to play it with some people on Tabletop Simulator. We played it. We loved it. Like half of us backed the game on Kickstarter once we got done playing it. So those are like some like good methods and things that we've seen on like board game Kickstarters that make it where it feels like a worthwhile investment to me.
But even would you even do that for a company that has no track record?
It depends on the dollar amount. So I think there's like a 2-player basketball card game I backed, and it was like $15, right? And I was like, because this is cards, and I was like, okay, I'll take a gamble on this. If the game's trash, I didn't spend a lot of money. Odds are I'm going to forget about this game. It's going to be a surprise. Like a year down the road, I'm going to be like, oh, what's this? Oh, cool, it's a little game. And if like $15 can like maybe fund someone's like dream or their like big thing they want to do, go for it, man. But if it's like if someone's coming out with like, here's my dungeon crawl with like 400 miniatures, $250 Kickstarter, or like any Awakened Realms game where they're like, here's tons of flash and excitement stuff, but the game's mostly garbage. Then I'm going to be like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to spend all that money. It's too big of a risk. I want to wait for you to release some products, see if anything's actually worthwhile. Or, you know, if you do like a second round, because if a Kickstarter is good and like they don't get a retail ability, like they don't have the ability to send it to there, see if they'll be at a convention whenever those start back up again. See if you could get direct from the publisher, if you get some good feedback on watching like reviews, or just wait for them to do their second round of Kickstarters, which is what I did with Super Fantasy Brawl, a game that like I demoed to like Hollis, and you watched it like Jameson. Like,
great game, by the way.
Yeah, like my initial impression of the game was kind of like lukewarm, and it was kind of a hefty investment at the time it like came out. And I was like, I don't know, most of the games I've seen like this have not been great. But then when they did their second round, which was like everything from the base, included all the expansions they worked on, they put up where you could play it online. And I realized like, oh, there was actually like a deep, solid game here that's worthwhile. And then they won me the second time, and I went like an all-in pledge. And so I was like, hey, heck yeah, let's do this. So you know, there's different ways you can approach it and like win over your customer base.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problems with you know, with people using Kickstarter as a platform, because there's games out there that would never have seen the light of day if they weren't, you know, if this platform didn't exist. I'm very hesitant though. When things hit certain dollar amounts, like you said, Corey, it has to be from a very respected company. I've had some very early Kickstarter, you know, things that for the platform that I kickstarted, and it took like, you know, 2-3 years for it to kind of show up, and that was just, you know, struggles. That was things. That was just like, meh, like I guess I've lost my whatever it is, right? And then kind of lose interest, and then it finally fulfills. But honestly, for me too, what really gets me is I really have to pay attention to, is this a game that I feel like I'm going to keep? Because, you know, is it for me? And maybe, you know, I know what that genre and that niche is now. for me hitting that great family level game that I can guarantee that this is going to get to the table, that my wife is going to like it as a 2-player game, and this fits into a small niche that I'll have it long enough that my kids can grow in and play it. So I'm only looking for those kind of evergreen, longer games right now. But where it hits me, man, is the where I said I have to make sure that it's not coming to retail is because of shipping. Sometimes shipping to Canada and the duties that I pay on the imports on some of these things is just a punch in the face. It's ridiculous. There's a lot of companies being aware of the shipping and getting better distributions now, as it's their 3rd and 4th try. So some of that stuff is great. But then the other problem I have with Kickstarter is, if you say something, just I hope that you follow up with that. Where if it's a Kickstarter exclusive, it's like it really is going to be only on Kickstarter, because that's kind of, it hurts a little when people pay so much for the shipping, pay so much for this, and then I could have just picked it up at retail, because I have a bad problem with the fear of missing out. Like, there's some things that I can be like, I don't need, but there's some things that I'm just like, I gotta go all in on this, right? Like right now, I really hate when, this is just personal preference, but I hate when some of the reviewers out there, their early impressions of a game is just like, meh, don't like it. And I'm like, oh, this game looks like it's so good for me, like so good. And then, in their yearly recap, they're like, yeah, we were so surprised by this game. I didn't like it the first 3 times I played it, but now I've been forced to play it more. And now it's like one of my top 3 games of the year. And I'm like, now I got to go and get the retail version of this game. I've missed all of the Kickstarter exclusive stuff. I could have got this stuff, right? And, like one of those ones was that Cool Mini or Simon, that Marvel United, where they teamed up with Spin Masters, right? And yes, I could go get that one little, that beginner box. But then, now you see like even the Dice Tower guys are like, well, this game was a 7 before and we were lukewarm on it, but now we've got everything. It's like a 10, it's like a 9. And I'm like,
well, I have good news for you. The X-Men version just launched today on Kickstarter. So maybe they'll let you back pledge for all the other stuff and you can make up all lost ground. So all it takes is a small loan. Probably a good like $400 or $500 to catch up on everything, right? But you'll be there.
Yeah, but that stuff was only coming out through the Kickstarter, right? All of the other expansions and the modules and.
Dude, I don't know. I tend to avoid Simon Kickstarters. I think because I've done a couple of them in the past, and I've had very not great experiences with them. Or once I've received the game's been very just half-assed. It's been like Pretty Miniatures, half-assed game. So I judge those games really harshly because I feel like I've just been burned by them in the past. And especially the way that they're designed is it's almost like it tricks you. Like, hey, here's a really cheap entry cost. Like the base game's like $60. And you're like, oh, that's fair. But wait. There's also 2 expansions you can get for adding on another $30 a piece. And then there's these extra special kits. And by the time it's like everything's done, it's like $250, $300. And then they're like only available during the Kickstarter. And you're like, but why? Why are you doing all this? And it's just like, and then it's just like, well, I don't just want to order this because I'm going to miss out on getting, and it's the same thing. It's like that. I'm going to miss out on all this like other stuff. Yeah. But then if you spend and order on like these boxes of pretty much the shit get dumped on your doorstep, and then you're just like, oh, this game sucks. So now I have like all this stuff, and especially like in your case, it's not even worth trying to resell it because you're going to spend all that money in shipping to go to anybody anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I can try and hope that maybe there's like my neighbor that I can just walk it over and be like, hey, you want this for $1,000?
Right. Yeah.
There's actually, I've even seen this happen in a weird way, like in the inverse of this happen, where the expansions provided are truly terrible.
Yeah.
Like, because on one hand, yeah, that can happen where like the expansions pretty much make the game like more full, make it feel like a real game. But the example that came to mind immediately when I thought about the opposite of this was Kingdom Death: Monster, right?
Yeah.
Where they like in the base game. Number one, spoiler alert, if anyone has played that game, I think it is a beautifully designed game. I just think it's not fun. I think it's the most min-maxy concept I've ever played. And while I enjoy things like that, ultimately, it's just not that's not fair to say the game itself isn't fun. I didn't find it that fun. And the expense provided for the game were, for example, there's like a effectively you fight a boss. The game is in like this cyclical concept. And you do something at your home base, and then you fight a monster. Then you do something at your home base, and you fight a monster. That's basically a rinse and repeat of what the game is. Similar to Gloomhaven, but a lot less roleplay involved. And the negative is that like the alternate monsters you could fight that come in expansions, as opposed to I guess the base monster in the main game, they're just straight up harder, and the game is already hard. Like, so you are playing this game that is very, very difficult, and they're just providing you with another means to make the game even more difficult. And so, and that aspect of the game to me was the least enjoyable. The combat versus the big bad is the least enjoyable part of the whole thing. So you're giving me a harder monster that's not as fun? Ugh. And this costs 60 extra? Ugh.
Yeah, that base game is real expensive for Kingdom Death. It's like a $200 like base set or whatever for all this stuff.
It is not a cheap game. It's not. It is exactly what Jameson said. It's like, what are you going to do? Sell like the expansions online? Which, by the way, I don't know if you go check eBay or look at those sales, people have done. There are people that have ordered the expansion just because they knew that they wouldn't get reprinted, and the miniatures would be more valuable after the print versus before.
Yeah, it's weird, this whole aftermarket Kickstarter stuff like that, right? And then Hollis, on that line, I wonder too, like I'm not somebody who ever pledges early in the campaign. I'm like, okay, it's got like, an hour left. I can see everything that's been brought out. Because from that perspective too, I like to look at I still go back and forth with stretch goals, and I look at them and I'm like, are these stretch goals something that, like, did you guys know about it the whole time and you just kind of leaked it out, or were you just like, hey, these are the 5 stretch goals. Oh my God, this really took off. Oh, let's get another a stretch goal in here. A 5th player, purple pieces.
or my favorite is foil embossed box cover.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, hey buddy, I'm gonna let you know, probably 99% of people don't give a shit about what you do to the box cover. Like, it's when this is a stretch goal, it's very like whatever. Or the slip covers, when they're like, you get a slip cover on your box, like, great. This is now like an obnoxious like thing I now have to like fit in. And then, like, if I pack my box doesn't go down flush, I now can't fit the slip cover on it, which means now I've got an extra piece of thing flapping around that either I store somewhere else or I throw in the trash. So
I do like the now, like the
old man yelling at the cloud ranting about Kickstarter stretch goals.
but hey, you know what though, is that to me that makes 100% sense, because, you can see, like, look at the area that my board games are in. I don't have them, like, nobody comes to my house and they're like in like a china cabinet, right? Like, and I don't tell my kids, don't get your fingerprints on that game box, kids. That's the foil embossed box collector edition, right? Like,
right.
So for me, packaging, like the outside of the package, I really, really don't care, because I've already bought your game. Like, to me, you're just basically building a stretch goal in for when you put it on retail, and that's sitting on the shelf, and that's attracting someone to pick it up and then look at it. But I don't even know how your board game stores do it, right? Like, mine are just all there, and it's not like like any other kind of Costco where they have like the end caps, you know, and like, or,
Right.
you know, here's that at Best Buy, you know, they put the new release movie on the end of the end cap. So you're like, oh, here it is, right? Look at it. It's so awesome. It comes in this tin. And you're just like, you know, so it's drawing your eye to something. But like, I mean, I go into a board game store and they're just all on the shelf packed like this anyway. And like most people know what they're going in for. So it's not like I'm in a Target or a Walmart and I have to make it like, you know, so appealing that it's like somebody's picking this up as a gift and they're like, oh, this looks cool for someone who likes games. So I think that's a really, really weak one. But, you know, I've seen some very bad kind of, you know, Kickstarter add-ons, like, you know, your score pad should not be a stretch goal. Sometimes I think wonder too, like about when they do inserts, right? Like, you're basically like, then you just get a billion questions on like, can I sleeve my cards and put it in your custom insert? And sometimes it's no, sometimes it's yes, right? Like
that answer should always be yes.
Yeah, right. But I mean,
if your answer is ever a no, I'm sorry, we can't fit sleeve cards. You designed a terrible insert.
Man, what?
Yeah.
I'll add, just to add a little spice from the conversation about like how much we may not care about the box art. I care more about the game tray in the box than I do about the box. Pretty much always. Yeah. Like I might, like for example, in the case of Vindication, the game I mentioned in the start, I think the art of the game is beautiful. I think the box art is beautiful. After I looked at it, I was like, hey, got the game manual is good enough. I can look at the game manual all day and appreciate the art or the card art for the cards in the game and appreciate the game art. I can appreciate the box art. I would never want to pay extra for better box art. I know there are people that's their thing. It's just not my thing. I would rather you have like you said, an amazing game tray that supports if it has cards in it. The space if when I sleeve them, because obviously I want to protect my investment. Hello.
Yeah.
Right. It always seems weird. Like if I'm going to invest early in your idea, into your concept of a board game or your early prototype, then I might want to protect this investment. Or especially if it's something that's like exclusive, like it may only be through Kickstarter, they don't have a retail plan, then like, yeah, I probably want to do the best I can to maintain and protect this game. So please design it where I can do this, because I don't know if like 5 years down the road, you'll still exist as a company and I can just go and buy another version of this game, or if you'll ever reprint it.
Yeah.
So,
and how about this, right? Like, if you are kickstarting a game and it has, you know, and you're like, you're either offering or the stretch goal is an expansion, right? Or some kind of mini, you know, expansion. Just call that out from the start. Because why? Because if I'm buying, if this game doesn't exist yet, and like you said, it's you know, I'm funding the idea. I'm not going to get it for another year because you have to hit your goal and then you have to produce it, right? Just say, hey, guess what, guys? The expansion comes in one box. Like, you don't, you know, for me, who was here from the beginning, who gave you money before this game didn't exist, squish them together. You know, don't give me so many boxes. Or don't be like, you know what you can do? Here's the base game, here's the expansion, and for an add-on pledge, you can buy the big box of storage, and these two ones will then go into here. So I'm paying $30 for an empty box. That's embossed.
Wild.
Nice.
I don't like storage solutions just aren't thought out like that. But
yeah, other things on that, before we move on to like the video game side of stuff, I also tend to get a little hesitant when they offer like an expansion or add-on content, but it gives you like the little like to be designed are still in testing. So it's not even like a finish. It's just like an idea. It's like the guys are sitting around like, hey, what's the stretch goal? I don't know. We could do this alternate variant of this game where you do this. It's like, cool. We'll add that to the goal, but they haven't even like play tested, designed it, and worked it out yet. Oh. So it's like when you see stuff like that, it's like immediately like, is this really like a really like well thought out idea, or is this like a pasted on thing that you did just to have something for a stretch goal to feel like you're getting something extra.
Yeah. So it does seem that all of us seem to be on board with pre-ordering board games at one, to
the meter standards, right?
To a certain extent, the needle's tipping towards yes, right? It may not be 100%. I guess I'm gonna do this way. It may not be 100% yes, right? But it's somewhere over on this side that, if it checks enough boxes, we're willing to go in. What about the video side of things?
No.
Yeah, no.
The last game I pre-ordered was Cyberpunk, and that went terribly. Now, and honestly, I'm a big advocate of the Microsoft Game Pass, and I think there's a lot of games that I never would have played, never would have tried if they weren't available on Game Pass. And especially like Outriders, I know we've mentioned some issues and problems they've had out of the gate, where I think that they've bought some kind of like goodwill from me, and the ability to work past it is because day one they made themselves available on Game Pass. So I didn't have to go and spend like $60 for this game to find out that like a bunch of the features weren't working. I'm just paying my Game Pass monthly fee that I was going to be doing anyway for other stuff I play, and I'm able to download and play the game, and they can work the kinks out. It doesn't change what I'm already paying to have access to this game. So I think that type of stuff has really changed my mindset on just like day one pre-order, throwing all this money down on a video game, especially when so many like AAA titles have launched with tons of issues and problems. That like being there on day one to be like, I'm there first, whatever, just doesn't seem to matter, because I'd rather wait like a couple weeks, a month down the road to play a game that's mostly functional and actually does what they advertise the game's supposed to do.
Boom. Man, that was a solid answer. Dang, how do I follow that up?
You can do it. I believe in you.
Well, okay.
You're like the patch.
The patch.
Clean everything up.
The days we'll need after they launch. So while we were discussing on the board game side of things, I just took a couple moments. I just did a quick Google search to look at some failed pre-launch games. I'm just going to list a couple out. I'm going to quick fire them out. Here they come. Right. Dragon Age Inquisition, Final Fantasy 14. Cyberpunk 2077, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and here's one, No Man's Sky.
Yeah, that's a big one,
right.
Which is now a fantastic game.
Gorgeous.
Do you know why I played it? Because it was on Game Pass. And so I downloaded it, and I was like, oh, wow, this game's actually really fun. I didn't have to live through, apparently, the hell that was like the early days of the game, or when there was really a lot of content in the game, where really they sold you an idea, but the idea was nowhere near fleshed out, and you're playing kind of like a bare bones version of what the game could be. And I think the game's kind of at that point now.
Yep. And I think this is the difference also. In board games, like we were talking about, like, especially for the service such as Kickstarter, or like there's another one, I can't remember the name of it. GoFundMe? I don't know.
Yeah, GoFundMe. You're right.
But for those services, the benefit is, earlier you made a statement that was, I think it was Jameson that made this, that said, if it wasn't for programs like Kickstarter, some of these games would never actually happen. There wasn't a commercial backing to get the game made, so they have to put it in the hands of the fans. But with video games, especially if it's not an indie title, it's a whole different ballgame, because a lot of these failed titles came from were backed by really big studios or really big companies who have shareholders who want to make sure that game is released in a timely fashion, so if their quarterly earnings look good or their annual earnings look good, and it puts the money back in the pocket of investors. Now, whether you think that's fine or not, the fact remains is the games I listed are direct examples of the negative outcome. I believe the negative outcome of that, which is that they're more concerned with getting a product out that people are hungry for versus letting it cook longer and deliver a game players want to play. So a couple of these games I invested in early, more so than I care to admit. Example, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I was a huge fan of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Beautiful game. So when they announced Mankind Divided and the pre-orders available and you get like unique stuff, I was like, oh yeah, I'm all in. The game comes out, it's unfinished, It's rather buggy. On top of that, there's sort of a pay to win where the game has skill points. You can buy these items called praxis kits, which are basically, when you use them, you get a skill point. And a skill point are things like your main character has Adam Jensen has augments, right? He's like Cyberman, right? So those praxis kits effectively means that he's just, period, a stronger character throughout the game. Now, do you need those to beat the game? No, not at all. But you can purchase practice kits or get practice kits from pre-order, and then makes your character stronger. So it's think about the slap in the face that presents for a lot of fans of a game like that, where you're going to release the game unfinished, but there's this secondary market or the secondary like money that you want to throw into the game for an unfinished product to do better in the game. Instead of focusing any attention whatsoever on those kits, the focus should be on improving your game, making the actual quality of life changes that actually make the game playable and more stable, more fun. And I don't think you get that benefit. I mean, I don't think you always get that benefit in video games compared to board games. Sorry, I know this is kind of long. That doesn't mean that a game backed on Kickstarter, though, will be good, because there's another game on my list, which is Shenmue 3, which is the game that had its Kickstarter. And if I'm not mistaken, the premise was, as long as the game was started, the publisher or whoever that was, they would provide more money. They would match it or what have you. So, or whatever, like whatever money was provided already would be added from the Kickstarter. And even with that, the game was released with terribly. It was a terrible game. Terrible voice acting, terrible production. I think what's happened is everyone's burned from things like this, to where even now, like I'm with Corey, I've invested in Cyberpunk 2077, and I did so after not investing in a video game, like pre-ordering, in a very long time, because after so many failed attempts at this, I was like, okay, maybe I've learned my lesson and I won't do it anymore. And Cyberpunk 2077, because it came from a company I had great faith in, was an example of me going, okay, maybe I can take a chance here. And here we are, where I'm like, no, okay, there's another lesson learned. I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm just not.
I think that Cyberpunk was the one that broke a lot of people. I think that was the reality wake up, which is interesting, because when we talk about board game to video, it seems like all of us are in the yes column for board game and in the no column now for video game. Or, I mean, is it even a video game anymore? I mean, dude, they got to come up with another name for these games.
Your digital entertainment.
Digital entertainment games. Because I just think it's weird, because I'm like, the one that is easily fixed this day and age is the video game. Right? Like, if the board game sucks, right? You have a bad game. It's very, very hard to be like, is to have all of these. I know Board Game Geek is like the resource you can go to and stuff like that, but it's very hard to have this community pick up this game all at the same time of release, like, because it's not like video where it's like release is at midnight, everyone jumps on, right? And then everyone looks at the, like, whatever the kind of a main message board, or starts looking at Reddits and stuff like that. People in board games find things at different times, so it's very hard to go in and clean up a rule set. Right? If you have a poor rule set in version 1 of a board game, maybe it gets fixed in a second printing. But nobody's going to go out and buy that second printing, or I'm not going to go out and print out the rule set version 2 and keep these, like, I have my nice instruction booklet and then all of these other sub notes and shit like that inside my game box. It's very hard to fix a board game after you've printed it. Right? Very hard. Maybe you have to release an expansion and then you can release cards, or you see like contact the publisher and if it's big enough they'll give you reprints of cards that were spelled wrong or something. We've had this discussion with electronic card games versus competitive board game card games. With video games, you'd think that it just could be fixed a lot easier, so people should be taking the chances more. But I think that we've seen this, and I don't want to get into the reasons why, right? Like, you saw a very successful Outriders demo. People were so hyped. And then the real game comes out and we saw all of this stuff, go downhill. You see, for one reason or another, this illusion of and a promise of something with the demo for Cyberpunk, when that demo was shipped to all the reviewers, but that wasn't what was sold to the customers, right? And Hollis, like you said, with the Deus Ex stuff, it's people taking these. We understand it's ambitious and it's trying to push the limits and push things, but taking IP and just killing it. I had a buddy of mine that he knew that I was a Fallout 1, Fallout 2 kind of guy, and he was like, what was the big one that came up? Fallout 76 or whatever it was, or the last one?
Fallout New Vegas.
No, the one after that, like the...
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, you're right. 76 was the newest.
Yeah, 76. And it was like, oh, man, this company, Bethesda, they can't fail. This is Fallout. This is a franchise, blah, 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 blah. And then that game launches, nothing but complaints, nothing but issues. Just, I think people were walking around and like not even running into anybody in a multiplayer game. They're like, what is happening? Where is everybody? Right? Like, everybody just kind of dumped it. These online player-based games that if it doesn't succeed, goes right downhill, and it's hard for somebody to buy it after the fact. What was the other one? Like, and then just the letdowns, right? Like Anthem was failed, to catch on. Some of these games just have so much issues. They don't get that second life like No Man's Sky. And people are talking right now about Cyberpunk. Is Cyberpunk salvageable like a No Man's Sky? Can they put enough work into that game to get it to have that second life? Or is it just like at the point where CD Projekt Red just needs to say, guys, we screwed up royally, cut it and run. We're going to
on to their next project.
We're going to patch some issues and that's it. Like, we're not going to deliver. I know another one people talk very negatively about. There's a very torn fan base, is the Avengers game. When that came out, everybody said the same thing. The multiplayer and the online is trash, and there was people not playing it. Like, that player base was sinking heavily. There's a lot of people wanted to go cross-play so that it can take everybody's player bases and boost that up now, which I think should be the exact way. Like, every game should be cross-play now, unless there is a hard reason for it. If it's an online game, it should be cross-play. But for me, I picked it up. And I'll say the same thing, that it's a phenomenal story, right? But it's not worth the $80 or whatever you had to pay. And now they're trying to sell Avengers costumes and stuff like that. But at least that game too said, unlike CD Projekt Red, where they gave that hard deadline, they like, here's the roadmap. This is all of the releases for the year. We're still going to support this, whether they do or they not. I mean, they could turn out to be liars, but at least they're showing, they're showing the demos and stuff like that for, the Wakanda stuff that's going to come probably at the end of this year, things like that. So, was it worth it for the price that I picked it up to walk through the solo play? 100%. I enjoyed it from that perspective, but that's not the full package that people pre-bought in for, right? So it's hard.
Yeah. And I guess something to add on it too, and I do think like some of these, like, they're very ambitious, right? They try to do these like elaborate, really fancy games, all these crazy ideas. And like, I get that. But I also wonder if sometimes when these companies take this on, maybe the way they're approaching it or the way they're trying to do this game isn't necessarily the best. Because like, I get this, like, you have all this open stuff that you do, but then sometimes like you don't need to go this over the top to make a great experience. And that's like Disco Elysium. The best game of the year last year is Hades. And like, Hades, beautiful game, insanely fun game to play. They didn't, they focused on what they could do right, and they knew what to do, like good character art, voice acting, good story, just fun game mechanics. It wasn't like this insanely like overproduction or whatever. And I mean, hell, look at Nintendo. I mean, you motherfucker has been buying Mario for like 20 years, and you'll still buy the next one when it comes out.
Yeah.
Because it's good, it's fun. Like, I love Mario games. Like, there's just days I'm walking around, I'm like, man, I could really go for some Mario Kart and just jam some Mario Kart. Because it's good. It's just fun mechanics. Like, sometimes you don't always need some like insane, like over-promised whatever thing in your game. Sometimes you can just stick to the core stuff and it works.
I think kind of what we're sort of leaning into is a conversation sort of about, at least in the video game concept, about scope, right?
Yeah.
The scope of the game. Because like on board games, right? Even if they are kind of, I don't want to be accusatory here, but let's just say, even if we have it smells like a board game as being like, they're BSing about the scope of the game. All those expansions are pre-planned. They probably were going to put them in anyway, but they really want the stretch goal concept has just been the model that's worked, and so that's the one they're pushing, right? Even if I were to like subscribe to that thinking, the fact remains is that when those companies understand that the scope of the game requires a certain amount of time. That's why we wait that full year, even after we've paid for that Kickstarter, before we get the product. Because and why we often in kickstarted board games, we see a delay. Just because the scope of what they will take the time that it takes to make enough of the products so that you get them. It'll be delayed, but it's delayed as long as it has to until you get the final product. You hope it's good. It isn't always, but they take as long as they can, it seems. With video games, because they have the convenience, unlike board games, to be able to digitally, or I guess over the internet, just patch them away, you see that push come from these companies where they take these very expensive video games that are way outside the scope of most video games. Example, Cyberpunk 27 is a $330 million game to produce, guys. $330 million. Do you know, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Avengers Endgame a $300 million movie to make? and that's probably all like the CG and digital artists and all of that stuff. So if you just think about the scope of that, like Endgame is a $300 million movie, and a game like Cyberpunk is a $300 million video game. That takes time. That is hundreds of people all working in tandem on their little piece of something very, very big, just like a movie, right? In some ways. So the sheer scope of this means, you got to keep that in the oven. Even if I complain that it took 7 years, don't shit on a plate and hand it to me because it's been 7 years. If it takes you 10, it takes you 10. And I want to make, and when I get what I've been waiting on, I want it to be delicious. When you pull it out of the oven, I want that aroma to hit me, and I want to be like, hold on, don't add salt, don't add pepper, don't add a single thing. What you just crafted and cooked in that oven is a tasty morsel that I cannot wait to munch on, right? That's what you want. But it just seems like it's almost like a failing of like understanding the scope of the project. And that's like exactly what you said, Corey, where it's if they were to sort of downscale that and look at a game like Disco Elysium or Hades, where it doesn't need to be the most advanced graphically. People care way these days, games are so good looking. Oh my, what? They're so good looking now. You can scale that down. It doesn't have to be, I don't need a RTX, sold my home to purchase it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. I can run it on something less and have a great experience in a lot of different ways.
Well, I think some people do, though, Hollis, right? Some people are looking for these top prime, AAA cut of game, and they're looking to push their machines to the limit to get that experience, that immersion into the game. But I think that you hit a great point on, if sticking with your metaphor, right? Like if you're cooking something up, don't announce it. I think that people are learning it the hard way, where keep these things wrapped up until it's time, or until that you can actually produce something. There's no sense coming out with something if there's no reason that all you're trying to do is hype something up. There's no reason to hype something up 2-3 years ahead of time and then have a year of delays, right? Like And then most of the time too, like, I mean, let's call it like it is. I've had friends that bought Cyberpunk on PlayStation, and it was unplayable, right? And Sony still has not added, after it got removed to the recording of this video, have not added it back in to the Sony store, right? And that's what I think a lot of the patching and the fixing is where what I'm reading is CD Projekt Red might get to the point where the game gets acceptable enough to get added back to the Sony store, and then they can walk away, because now they can make that revenue on that platform. Because I don't know, this is all obviously all just speculation and stuff, right? But it's just
as Hollis mentioned too, about like they have the luxury of being able to do like the digital downloads, or they can patch in. Just imagine if like other things you purchase was like this. Like you got a board game and you're like, okay, cool, here's my board. All right, reading through the rules, set up. All right, take the action deck, shuffle, and you're like, okay, where's my action deck at? And you're like, wait, there's no action deck in the box. There's like a little insert. Oh, action deck to be mailed to you in 1 to 2 months. And you're like, what?
But hey, you know what though? I can tell you that Corey, I mean, that's a great analogy, but I hate when that happens. I've bought a game before, opened it up, and it's missing like a critical piece, and I'm like, oh, like I email the people, yada yada. They'll send it out to me, but like, you know, it's not like they're gonna run it over to me, or I just go back to the store and trade in my copy, right? Board games, you have to talk to the supplier, then they'll ship you something out. Now I'm waiting probably 4 to 6 weeks to get this game piece anyway that I need to play, or because I don't want to play with, you know, like set up a screwdriver on the board and just use this as my token or something like that, right? Like I want to play with the game that I bought, right? So it's hard.
Yeah.
But I also, I mean, I live in a world of the now, and I've given up, you know, physical. I love the Stadia experience where I can just hit and go. But because to me, I can't take all of these patches and these downloads, and like my buddies like had to like, hey, I just bought Cyberpunk, and then that day one patch drops, and he's like, okay, I've downloaded the game and it took X amount of hard drive space, took X amount of time, and now I have to download that day. Like I'm ready to start updating, getting that patch, and I'm just like, I could not go back to that again, man. I can't. I mean, they're talking now about some PlayStations, like the basic PlayStation, you can basically fill it with just one Call of Duty, right? Like,
oh yeah, because it's the file size is so big. Yeah,
right. I
with all the add-ons and stuff that they've done to it. Yeah,
it's weird, dude. It's weird.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else to say about this pre? I think our point was there. I'd like to hit one other quick discussion point before we wrap this up.
Go ahead.
A game that we all love, and a game that we all secretly, not secretly, but we all kind of play in the background and stuff like that, is Runeterra. Runeterra is the Legends of Runeterra is doing their 1 year anniversary right now. So this game's not beta, not at like official release 1 year ago. This is the week, and they're running their event right now. Right? Is Runeterra where you thought it would be 1 year later? What do they need in this game to get it where you think it needs to be? What are they missing? Or it, like, you know, in the age of pandemic, in the age of where I thought maybe esports would be bigger, you know, like some of these niche games, I thought this was their time to shine. You know, I thought, hey, it's going to take 6 months of lockdown and you're going to see all of these weird esport leagues coming up, pushing. That didn't really happen. Not just for Runeterra, but I thought that the draw to get people online was going to be there. Thoughts on Runeterra after a year, guys?
So my initial idea would be, I thought they would have done a little bit more for like their competitive organized play, like event wise, where they're at, but they're making strides. But that would have been like a big thing I would have wanted them to work on when, you know, they first launched it officially. But since they've done the duo labs, like the co-op play stuff where you can play as teams against other teams, the team they had to divert to come up with this and make this experience in the game, I'm totally cool wherever they pulled them from, because it's one of the funnest things like I've done online. And so now I just hope they put more resources into that and to flesh out that to become like its own mode of play, or even like its own like competitive mode of play where you can do like team events or teams play against other teams, whatever. So yeah, so I'm kind of like, I think it should have been further along where they're at. I don't think their advertising or their push was as good as it could have been. But I think you're right and dead on where it kind of falls in the line of some of these games feel like really missed a chance to become more popular than they are, with how, a lot of people being quarantined, stuck at home. And for some reason or another, whether it's just like mismanagement, botching the way they advertised the game, the type of events they did, just didn't really catch on as big as they should have. That feels like a whole nother chat, though, a whole nother episode to go in deep into. But.
Well, I just wanted to hit it now because we are at the historic, the 1 year mark of a game, and usually sometimes this can be significant in the way that development houses take this game. Hollis, your thoughts on it? Is it there? Is Runeterra? Is the future still bright with Runeterra?
I think that what's happening is that they're realizing within their game that the market is heavily saturated because of existing card games that are very popular. I think the big two online, right, are going to be Magic Arena and Hearthstone. And for people that are already heavily invested in those games, it's really hard to steal them, right? Because once you're financially invested into something that can be so expensive, like Magic or Hearthstone, it's really, you have to actually be kind of blown away by the other game, right, to jump ship. And I can say definitely there are other games I've enjoyed that I'm like that with. I've 100% not jumped into another game like FPS games, because I've been like, not because of necessarily money, but also because of time. If I've played one FPS game, I'm going to just pick like Fortnite for heavy hours. And you try to get me to play Apex, doesn't mean I won't like Apex. But I got to look at how I've been playing if I got 1,200 hours or 100 hours even in one game, for me to come over, I have to just love it. And I don't know if that's where Runeterra is. I do think it'd be a great idea to go into more detail about like maybe what is going wrong or good for Runeterra. But I will say as a whole, like I guess as a synopsis, I think that there are more casual players in Runeterra than I expected, and less of a competitive community than I expected. Mm-hmm. And I think that is primarily because of the reason I stated, is that the hefty competitive community has already got themselves steeped into a game. They already get the fundamentals of, they get the advanced concepts of, and it's a big undertaking to jump ship. It's a huge time investment. Not only just for the playing side, but for learning all that stuff, right? Getting familiar. So I think that is something that they got to find a way to captivate people in those audiences. And honestly, the truth is they may just not be able to in the way that they were hoping because of the pure market saturation of games like this. Yeah. I do agree with Corey, though. Hey, the newest labs, man, that'll be fun. Listen, I think we talked about this in a different app. When we get an opportunity to do 2v2 games, that is spicy, right? That will be a spicy thing. Like, I mean, as like even a competitive format. Hello?
Yeah, but I think this kind of adds on to your point too, of where like the casual market is probably bigger for them, especially as much as they've been putting in the labs, as opposed to necessarily balancing the competitive meta in the game. Because that base for like expeditions and labs might be who plays like more of the game and does more than the group that plays the game super heavy competitive. So
yeah. So a couple thoughts that I have, and if you guys want, you can take these and run in the direction you want with them. I don't know. When I look at this game, I see a far superior game model, and I see a far superior experience for me. I did walk away from a very large grinded Hearthstone collection. Somebody who used to go in, get their dailies, keep up with their collection and stuff like that. And I walked away from that to this game. That being said, I do know that I treat it like an experience, though. I don't dump. I'm not a whale, right? For these games, I don't mind with the pandemic lockdown. Normally, I go out with friends, have beers, or go to a blockbuster movie. You're spending a night out for a Saturday $40 $50, or if you're going out for drinks, you're $60, right? So if you're dumping $40 into a game that you enjoy, to me that's good. You should be kind of supporting it somehow, because it can't be all free to play all the time. But I think the marketing for this game is lost. I think that there needs to be a new explanation, or there needs to be something else to describe these kind of games that is just not free to play anymore. Because free to play means, to me, you can play this game, but if you don't dump money into it to catch up, or you're going to be grinding at it for the rest of your life, you're never going to hit a max. This game, it is possible to get max, but now after a year, I'm starting to wonder, if I started today, how quickly could I max out? How quickly could I have the cards that I need? And I don't know if what they're missing is, to go back to our roots, is to really announce some kind of rotation plan, or some kind of roadmap beyond just release, like what they've done, right? Like, these are the expansion release. Yeah, it's nice that you've told us that a shitload of cards are coming, but again, as this pool grows, you're stopping people from coming into the game unless there's one big catch-up mechanic, and that catch-up mechanic can't be, I have to swipe my credit card multiple times, because people won't do that, especially if you're like, I'm going to swipe my credit card multiple times right now, and then tomorrow you're like, we're rotating, all those cards you just bought are gone, because that's a bad player experience. I love they're pouring their heart, their soul into this game. They're really trying to polish it up, but I don't know what the end game is. Corey, like you said, is this just appeasing to the casual players? Is their focus always going to be League of Legends because that's the player base? But the thing with this is I feel that gamers will follow the money in these kind of things. You have to make this esports worthy. You have to bring in the competitive play. It can't be all casual play, because I don't feel there is enough of a scene right now. I was heavily watching this, like, competitive tournaments when they came out before. I was heavily following top streamers. Now I don't feel like I need to really do that. I can just play what I want to play. And when that happens to someone like me, I feel that to somebody else that has a lesser stake in the game, they're already out. Like, I've already seen a good chunk of my friends list not come back.
Wow.
Right? And for one reason or another, either they've moved on, stuff with COVID happened, and they just, pulled them in a different direction. So I don't know if the pandemic brought more people into gaming or took people's time away from it. But I had let's just say, for the sake of argument, I had a friends list that, round number, like 10 people. Okay? There's probably 5 people that I see constantly still logged into this day from that. And the other half, are not playing it anymore. They've just kind of, it was good at the time, filled a niche, and they've moved on to something else. Right? So I don't know what needs to be done right now. Again, maybe we can get into more of a discussion to say what's not working, what's not, something else. But this is Runeterra at the 1 year mark. I'm still enjoying my time with it. I still think that they are pushing the boundaries of what an online digital card game can be. And I think that the experience there is leaps and bounds better than what I've had in any other online card game. But I do not think that it's where it needs to be to show a healthy future for that game.
Yeah. If they're able to make a jump right now, though, now's a good time, because the other top dogs are struggling. They've had some really interesting things that's happened within their community, and some upper management shifts that's messed with some focus, especially in like the Magic Arena world. That there's a lot of hiccups going on. If there's a good chance for you to jump out, now's the time to do it. But we'll see. We'll see.
Artifact was classic example of a big company, right? That you just can't throw a shitload of money at something and think that people are going to come, right?
Yeah.
Like Valve, I thought Valve was too big to fail, right? And that's what people straight up told me. They're like, if Valve is ready to release their card game, they have the money to take on Activision Blizzard for Hearthstone. And this was before like Runeterra was there, right? And it was very exciting. It looked good. They brought in, a top-notch design team, people that said they were dedicated. And that game, right? Hype train, roller coaster, hard crash, hard fall.
Man, not only did they prove you wrong on Too Big to Fail, they doubled down and failed on Artifact twice.
Oh!
So, I mean, they were like, hey,
rough.
I'll show you. Don't tell us we're too big to fail.
It's like, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
That's right. I refuse to make a new Half-Life game.
Oh.
I'm going to fail at everything else I do. So,
Hey, guys, look at this. Some nobody kid up in Canada just dropped this tweet here. We're too big to fail. He's all excited for the release of our card game. What do you say we double down and stab this guy in the wall?
No.
Yeah.
Ruined all your street cred. Immediately. Ruined all of it.
Yeah. So that's that, eh? That's what we think. So we'll have to come back to that one. We're all just kind of still enjoying it, but it's not. We have our thoughts, and we'll hold it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick round table to end. Corey, something you're excited for coming up?
Oh crap! Go to Hollis. I need a second to think about it. Hollis, what do you got? Something excited coming up?
I'm really excited for actually my Netrunner games. I'm in a little small league that's doing the startup format of the game, and so my first league game is tomorrow. I have not actually played a game with the startup pack. I've only played standard games where actually there's more cards. So I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to be with a even further limited card pool. So it'd be cool. It'd be interesting to see because that's supposed to be like the starter intro thing. So it'd be kind of nice to check that out and see what ideas come with what's the new starter pack. I like it.
Sweet. And I have one of my game groups is teaching me Feast for Odin, so pray for me. And I'm really excited because we're almost to the launch of the Mortal Kombat movie, fam.
Yeah!
We're almost there. It got pushed back a week. That hurt me a little bit inside. But hey, as we mentioned, if that's what they need, I'm okay with it. We're so close.
Okay, so I'm excited for the additions we're going to get for the Root game coming to Steam.
That's very true.
That'll be awesome. We're heavy into that. We'll probably get some good stream action of that coming up in the next little bit after that's launched, and you'll get our thoughts on that. Guys, what is Mortal Kombat being released on? Is that part of that HBO deal?
It is. Yes, I'm quite positive it is part of that. Like they'll have it in theaters.
I can't remember.
But you'll have the ability to also stream it from home if you don't want to go see it in theaters. And I believe it is part of that HBO.
So that means people in Canada are mucked on that. Did you guys see Bill and Ted Face the Music?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Is it worth it?
I enjoy. If you're a Bill and Ted fan,
yeah,
it's a fun movie and it's worth watching.
Okay.
It's not like groundbreaking, not going to blow your mind, not movie of the year, but it's a very entertaining movie if you're a Bill and Ted fan.
Okay.
Which I am. I enjoyed it.
I am, but
I didn't waste my money.
I never ended up getting. I think it's coming to Netflix soon. So
cool. Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. It was a fun time.
All right.
So, all right.
That's what we have on our list. I think there was something else big coming in May. Oh, I'll say this ahead of time. I'm excited for the release of the Bad Batch coming.
That's true. That's something that's coming out soon. It's the new Star Wars.
Yeah, the
new.
The extension of the Clone Wars and stuff like that. We'll see how it is. I'm really liking the fact that Star Wars is not like one thing that I have to love or hate anymore. It's not like they come out with The Last Jedi and it's like, this is the only thing Star Wars. Do you like, now it's like, you know, hey, there's this little bit of Star Wars over here, you know, The Mandalorian, do you like it? Do you not like it? Well, if you don't, there's this other Star Wars to choose from at this Star Wars buffet, right? Like, you can like the universe, you know, like you can like, you know, all of this, or you don't have to like every food that's at the buffet. Now I can pick and choose the sample of Star Wars that I want to take in while still enjoying the universe. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, and last thing before we go, sorry, we're running a little long. I cannot recommend enough. I am loving Invincible on Amazon. If you've not watched it, it's phenomenal. So, spoiler, I've not read the comics, so I went into this like completely blind, and I'm loving it. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out.
Who did the comic? Mark was that?
Robert Kirkman.
Oh, Kirkman. Like, yeah, the Walking Dead. That's right. Because Mark Miller's all his stuff's on Netflix, right? With his new Rise of Jupiter or something like that coming soon.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Netflix,
yeah, sorry, that's it.
Yes,
I
still have to check that out. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoy these ramblings where we get together and hammer stuff off. It's kind of our you know, we let the cameras roll on our Wednesday meetups, and we just thought it'd be a good idea to let you guys in on some of this stuff. So
yeah, and if there's something you're really excited about, or we missed, or any of your thoughts, like share them in the comments below.
Yeah,
fill it up, chat with us.
Yeah.
We respond pretty much like everything. So let us know your thoughts, your feelings, what you're hyped about. Maybe you agree, you disagree. Whatever,
yeah.
Let us know.
Or if there's some games you need us to check out that are on Board Game Arena, tabletop simulators, or wherever else we can play them online, we'll give them goes and play. Maybe we'll even you know, have some people on to join us and play against. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Pub Chat. We'll catch you in the next one. Latest.
See ya.